I want you to just take a look at whatever is directly in front of you right now.
Could be anything, really.
Right, like maybe it's a hot cup of coffee you just poured, or,
Hmm.
maybe you're glancing at a newly delivered package sitting on your kitchen counter.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you are looking at the final physical result of this invisible, incredibly high-stakes choreography.
Mm.
It's this massive dance of logistics that stretches across continents, and yet you probably never even noticed the music playing.
You really don't. And I mean, the whole system is built to be invisible to the end consumer, right? We just expect things to appear.
Exactly.
But the moment you actually peek behind the curtain, you realize just how precarious that delivery was. It's frankly a miracle anything gets anywhere on time.
It really is. And that's our mission for this deep dive. Today, we're pulling from a thoroughly eye-opening stack of source material, centered around a report called The Architects of Movement, Freight Forwarding in North America.
Such a good report.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We're going to decode this hidden, frankly chaotic world of freight forwarders. These are the unseen coordinators who, ironically, don't actually own the trucks.
No, not at all.
They don't own the massive cargo ships either. But what they do own are the connections. They own the complex web of relationships and, well, data that literally keeps the modern economy from collapsing on itself.
Which is a massive burden for a sector most people outside the industry can't even, accurately define.
Okay, let's unpack this,
Yeah.
because the definition itself is actually crucial here. The source material points out some really subtle but important regulatory distinctions.
Right, depending on where you are.
Yeah, so if you're in the United States, regulators generally describe a freight forwarder as a company that arranges transportation using for hire carriers.
Meaning they don't own the trucks themselves?
Right. They hire specialized trucking companies to do the physical moving, and they often take legal responsibility for those shipments while they're in transit. But if you look at Canada, the definition expands significantly.
It's much broader up there.
Yes, exactly. In Canada, they're viewed as agents who do a lot more than just arrange transport. They're handling consolidation, warehousing, mountains of documentation, and heavy customs support.
And let's define consolidation really quickly, too, because it sounds like a corporate buzzword.
It totally does.
But it's really the art of playing three-dimensional Tetris with different companies' freight. So you might have 5 different businesses that only need a fraction of a truck.
Right. They don't have enough stuff to fill the whole trailer.
Exactly. The forwarder figures out how to consolidate all of that disparate cargo into one single, highly profitable truckload. And that difference in the job description between the US and Canada tells you everything you need to know about the modern supply chain.
It's not just booking a truck.
No, this isn't just a simple booking agent anymore. It's a layered, multi-dimensional role.
So we're talking about a massive logistical puzzle.
Yeah.
And to give you a sense of the sheer scale of this invisible ecosystem, just look at the money involved. We're talking about a North American logistics engine valued at well over $140 billion.
140 billion. And it's climbing rapidly, by the way.
Well, yeah.
The U.S. freight forwarding market generated over $34 billion in 2024, and the projections show it blowing past $42 billion by 2030.
Wow.
And Canada, while a smaller market overall, is actually growing at an even faster relative pace. It's jumping from roughly $7.5 billion to over $10 billion in that exact same time frame.
That is a staggering amount of money for an industry operating entirely in the background.
Yeah.
But, here's the thing. We know this market is massive, and we know the revenue is climbing. The real question is, how does this actually operate in the physical world?
Right, the day-to-day.
Yeah. We can talk about billions of dollars all day, but eventually, rubber has to meet the road.
Literally. And this is where the macroeconomic scale crashes into the physical reality of the highway.
Because everyone talks about planes and ships.
Right, exactly. Despite our modern obsession with the speed of air freight or the sheer undeniable scale of ocean cargo ships, road freight remains the undisputed backbone of revenue in both the U.S. and Canada.
It always comes back to trucks.
Always.
Yeah.
Trucks are doing the heavy lifting where it actually matters, connecting the global supply chain to the places where people actually live and businesses operate. Trucks are the first mile, they're the last mile, and they are almost always the most unpredictable part of the entire journey.
As I was reading through these sources, I kept thinking of this analogy. A freight forwarder is essentially a travel agent for cargo.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
But it's a travel agent with an incredibly stressful twist. Think about it. If you're a passenger and your flight gets delayed, you just sit at the gate and wait.
Maybe grab an overpriced sandwich, yeah.
Exactly. But if a cargo truck cancels at the last minute, or a border crossing gets jammed up, the cargo doesn't just sit there without consequences. The forwarder has to scramble immediately to actively prevent a multi-million-dollar supply chain domino effect.
The mechanism behind that scramble is where the real stress lies. Because if that truck cancels, the forwarder can't just apologize to the client.
Right, an apology doesn't keep a factory open.
No. They have to hit the phones, tap into their carrier network, negotiate a totally new rate on the spot, usually at a huge premium, and get a replacement truck to that loading dock before the factory runs out of parts and shuts down its assembly line.
So it sounds completely exhausting.
It is. And the stress of that has only amplified because of what the industry calls the freight roller coaster.
The freight roller coaster, I love that term.
It perfectly captures the extreme volatility operators face. I mean, what we saw a massive surge in demand during recent supply chain disruptions. Everyone was buying everything, which created a frenzy.
Right, during the lockdowns and all that.
Exactly. And new trucking companies flooded the market to meet that demand. But that frenzy was inevitably followed by a sharp slowdown. Consumers stopped buying as much, demand plummeted, but you still had all these new trucks on the road.
So you have a massive oversupply of trucks and...
And not enough freight to put in them.
Right.
Which crashes the rates. And that slowdown pushed the weaker carriers completely out of the market. Mom-and-pop fleets that bought expensive trucks during the peak suddenly couldn't make their loan payments.
Oh, man.
Yeah, bankruptcies rose significantly. Trucking capacity rapidly tightened up again as those fleets vanished. And only slowly did signs of recovery begin to appear as volumes stabilized.
It's constant whiplash. And I want to connect this directly back to you listening to this right now.
Mm.
Because this freight roller coaster isn't just some abstract economic theory. It's deeply practical.
It affects everyone.
Yeah, if you tried to buy a piece of furniture or a specific car part or even a specialty grocery item last week and it was mysteriously backordered, you are feeling the direct result of that roller coaster.
You're feeling that capacity tightening.
Exactly. You're feeling the whiplash of that capacity tightening and the forwarder struggling to secure that unpredictable middle mile.
And because the physical trucking market is so wildly volatile, the financial reality for the freight forwarders themselves becomes incredibly precarious. We have to look at who actually eats the cost when things go wrong.
Which is usually them, right?
Yeah, because the sheer lack of a financial safety net is shocking. What's fascinating here is that typical profit margins in freight forwarding sit between a mere 8 and 15%.
Okay, wait, I have to stop right there.
Yeah.
Because as a learner looking at this from the outside, the math just doesn't make sense to me.
It's surprisingly low, isn't it?
It really is. If this service is so absolutely critical and they are the ones managing all this chaos and preventing factories from shutting down, why can't they just charge more for the service? Why accept such razor-thin single-digit margins?
It's a totally logical question, but it comes down to how fragmented the market is. The barrier to entry to start a small freight brokerage is relatively low.
Like anyone with a phone and an internet connection.
Pretty much. So you have small mom-and-pop brokerages operating out of their garages, mid-sized regional players, and massive global tech-forward giants all competing for the exact same freight.
Ah, so it's just a race to the bottom on price.
Exactly. Because the customer can easily shop around for a slightly better rate, forwarders simply can't dictate higher prices. And because those margins are trapped between 8 and 15%, the ripple effect of even a tiny error is catastrophic.
Walk me through a specific example of that. What does a catastrophic error look like on a single shipment?
Okay, let's say a forwarder books a load of electronics and expects a 10% profit margin on a $10,000 move.
So they plan to make $1,000.
Right, but the truck arrives at the destination and the warehouse is completely backed up. The driver is forced to wait 3 hours to unload.
Which isn't the forwarder's fault.
No, but the trucking company charges what's called an accessorial charge, specifically a detention fee for the driver's wasted time. That fee might be $800.
Wow. So one delay at a loading dock just wiped out 80% of the profit for the entire job.
Or consider a misquoted rate. If a forwarder quotes a customer based on historical data, but the market capacity tightened overnight and they have to pay a carrier more to move it, profit gone.
Just instantly vanished.
Yeah. A single delayed shipment that requires expedited overnight handling to make up for lost time, profit gone.
That sounds deeply stressful. And it's not just the margins keeping them up at night, right? It's the cash flow itself.
Oh, the cash flow is a huge piece of this.
Yeah, the sources point out that forwarders often have to pay the trucking carriers well before the end customer actually pays the forwarder.
They're essentially operating as the bank for the global supply chain.
It's like you're the one friend who puts the entire $5,000 group vacation on your personal credit card.
Yeah.
You book the flights, you get the Airbnb, and then you just have to sit back and pray everyone Venmos you before your credit card bill is due and the interest hits.
That's a great way to look at it. Except in this industry, the friends you're waiting on are massive corporations operating on 30 to 45-day accounts receivable cycles.
Right, which is terrifying.
It is. Imagine paying the operational costs for thousands of trucks moving across the continent out of your own pocket, and then just waiting a month and a half hoping your clients actually pay their invoices on time.
This actually brings up my absolute favorite realization from the source material. It's the concept of customer selection.
Oh, this is huge.
Because when you're operating on razor-thin margins and floating the cash for 45 days, the natural assumption is that you just want as much business as possible. Grab every client you can.
Right. More revenue equals more success.
But the smartest forwarders know that not all business is good business.
Let's look at the hidden labor costs to understand why. You might have client A who ships a standard pallet every Tuesday. It's the same route, zero drama. They pay you $5,000 and you make your $500 in profit.
Easy money.
Then you have client B. They pay you $20,000. On paper, they look like a VIP account.
But they're a nightmare to work with.
Right. Client B changes the delivery destination while the truck is literally in transit.
Which you can't really do easily.
No. And they demand hourly location updates via email. They dispute every single accessorial charge. By the time you factor in the sheer amount of human labor your operations team spent managing client B's anxiety and route changes, your profit margin completely evaporated.
Wow.
You essentially paid for the privilege of moving their freight. The industry is waking up to this and actively auditing which customers actually generate profit and which ones just generate expensive noise.
So we've established there is essentially zero room for financial error domestically. You have tight margins, fragmented competition, and huge cash flow risks. So naturally, let's introduce an international border.
Because what could possibly go wrong?
Exactly. Here's where it gets really interesting. When we talk about the U.S.-Canada cross-border trade, it's incredibly easy to picture a simple line on a map. A truck drives north, the driver hands a guy in a booth a piece of paper, the gate goes up, and they keep going.
If only it were that simple?
But the reality is that the border is a massive labyrinth of overlapping customs regulations, tariffs, and licensed brokers. It's an environment where errors aren't just possible, they're practically guaranteed if you don't know exactly what you're doing.
The regulatory environments are incredibly stark and unforgiving. In Canada, only highly authorized entities can act as customs brokers.
So you can't just wing it.
No, you can't just declare yourself capable of clearing freight for a client. The government wants a single, highly regulated throat to choke if tariffs aren't paid or rules are broken.
Makes sense from their perspective.
Yeah, but this forces freight forwarders to either establish deeply integrated, trusting partnerships with licensed Canadian brokers or go through the arduous process of obtaining that specialized authorization themselves. Meanwhile, in the United States, the regulatory oversight shifts entirely depending on whether the shipment involves ocean transport versus land transport.
It's a constantly moving target. Let's put a scenario to this. Say I'm a forwarder moving a truckload of medical supplies from Ohio to Toronto.
Okay.
What actually happens if someone on my team hits the wrong key on a keyboard when typing up the customs paperwork? Just a simple typo.
Well, a customs agent at the border looks at your commercial invoice and sees the weight doesn't match the bill of lading.
The bill of lading being the ultimate master receipt and legal contract for the cargo.
Correct. The agent sees the discrepancy and flags it. That truck immediately gets pulled into a holding facility.
Just stops dead.
Yep. Now, the driver is sitting there burning through the legal hours they are allowed to drive in a day. The medical supplies are delayed. The warehouse in Toronto has an empty dock with workers standing around doing nothing.
Which costs money.
A lot of money. And you, the forwarder, are scrambling to figure out what went wrong and get amended paperwork submitted before thousands of dollars in storage fees start piling up.
Over a typo.
Over a typo. And to survive this labyrinth, these forwarders have to operate on performance metrics that are honestly brutal. To even stay competitive in the market right now, a forwarder has to keep their document accuracy rates above 98%.
98%. Think about the sheer volume of paperwork required for international trade. Hitting 98% accuracy across thousands of shipments, commercial invoices, and certificates of origin is a monumental administrative task.
It really is. And the expectations don't stop at the paperwork. They're also aiming to maintain on-time delivery rates between 85 and 95% while keeping their exception rates below 5%.
An exception being any unexpected disruption, delay, or damage, right?
Exactly.
Why such strict on-time delivery metrics? Obviously, everyone wants their stuff fast, but is there a deeper reason behind those specific numbers?
There is, and it reveals a core philosophy of modern logistics. Transit time consistency is actually more important than pure speed.
Consistency over speed.
Yeah. Think about an automotive manufacturer. They operate on just-in-time manufacturing. They can plan an assembly line around a delivery that takes exactly 5 days every single time.
Okay.
What they cannot plan around is a delivery that might take 2 days or might take 8 days depending on a documentation typo at the border. Unpredictability is a cancer to a supply chain. A surprise early delivery can be just as damaging as a late one if the warehouse doesn't have the staff to unload it.
Oh, because then the truck is just sitting there again, racking up fees. That makes total sense.
Right.
So let's step back and look at the whole picture. We have an industry that operates on razor-thin margins, floats millions of dollars in cash flow for a month and a half, navigates complex international border law, and is expected to do all of this with 98% paperwork accuracy and near-perfect consistency.
That's a lot.
Let's be real. Human beings alone can't do that. You can't maintain that across millions of shipments with a team of people using spreadsheets and sticky notes.
You absolutely can't. The math of human error makes it impossible. And that is why the industry had to fundamentally evolve. Which brings us to the technological arms race happening right now.
Which is fascinating.
It is. Forwarders are increasingly relying on tools that would have sounded like pure science fiction just 5 or 6 years ago. We're seeing artificial intelligence actively deployed to analyze massive data sets. AI isn't just looking at historical rates to predict pricing, it's actively predicting weather patterns, analyzing traffic data, and monitoring port congestion simultaneously to predict a delay before the truck even leaves the yard.
How does that actually work in practice?
So the AI pulls in data from NOAA, cross-references it with live traffic APIs along the route, and alerts the forwarder that a snowstorm is going to shut down a specific highway pass in 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then the system can automatically suggest an alternate, slightly longer route that avoids the storm, ensuring the cargo still hits that crucial consistency metric.
And the tech evolution is handling the administrative burden too, right? We're seeing automation handle over half of the operational touch points for some of these platforms.
Absolutely half, yeah.
We're talking about the booking confirmations, the document processing, the routine shipment updates. Software is doing the heavy lifting, so the humans don't have to manually type out bills of lading and risk that 98% accuracy metric.
And this is all happening because the expectation of the customer has completely shifted. There's a specific concept we found in the research that perfectly encapsulates this. Visibility has become the currency of modern logistics.
It's the pizza tracker expectation applied to industrial freight.
That's a perfect way to put it. Customers no longer want to pick up a phone, call an account manager, and ask where their multi-million-dollar shipment is. They want to open a dashboard and watch it move on a map.
Like tracking an Uber.
Exactly. If they can see exactly when their pepperoni pizza leaves the oven, a logistics manager expects to see exactly when their container of microchips clears customs. They want preemptive updates alerting them to a problem before it actually occurs.
And this demand for visibility has sparked a massive shift in who actually controls the market. We're seeing the rapid rise of digital-first forwarders.
The tech native.
Right. These are companies built from the ground up around software, automated workflows, and API integrations, which is essentially just software talking directly to other software, no emails or phone calls required. And while these digital platforms might be a smaller slice of the overall market right now, they're growing significantly faster than the traditional legacy players.
Which is forcing the entire industry to adapt or die. Traditional freight forwarders can no longer just be logistics coordinators relying on Rolodexes and relationships. They have to transform into hybrid tech operations firms. They need software developers just as much as they need route planners.
But you know, this leads me to a really crucial question.
What's that?
If the platforms are automating 50% of the touch points, and AI is predicting the weather delays, and visibility is essentially just a software feature. Does the human element completely disappear? Are we just moving toward a giant algorithm running the North American economy?
It's tempting to think that, but the reality on the ground pushes back hard against that narrative. Technology is incredible when things go according to plan, or when there's a predictable deviation. But the physical world is messy. Remember that highly fragmented trucking market we discussed?
Thousands of mom-and-pop fleets.
Right. When a massive blizzard shuts down a major highway and available capacity drops to zero, an AI can calculate what the rate should be all day long. But an algorithm can't convince a reluctant dispatcher to put their driver on an icy road.
Ah, I see.
It takes a human relationship. It takes trust, built over years of shared struggle. The forwarder calls the carrier and says, "I know this is a brutal route today, but you know I always pay my invoices on time and I really need a favor." Technology cannot replicate the leverage of that phone call.
And let's not forget the other reason human oversight is so critical right now, the emerging physical threats. Technology isn't just being used for efficiency, it's actively being weaponized for security.
Yes, the security aspect is huge.
Because cargo theft is no longer some niche, minor issue where someone breaks a padlock on a trailer. It has escalated into a highly organized, strategic problem that's bleeding the industry of millions of dollars every single day.
We're seeing sophisticated schemes like double brokering, where criminals pose as legitimate carriers, take the freight, and then disappear or hold it for ransom.
That's insane.
It's a massive problem. The forwarders are having to invest heavily in biometric verification, dual authentication, and deep risk management systems just to ensure the person picking up the freight is actually who they say they are.
So while technology provides the map and the visibility, the human provides the intuition to act when the system breaks down or when someone is actively trying to deceive the platform.
The human element is required to navigate the deception.
So what does this all mean? If we step back and look at the entire picture we've painted today, freight forwarding is ultimately the high-wire art of making absolute complexity feel completely manageable. It's taking a chaotic network of millions of routes, overlapping international regulations, weather disasters, and razor-thin financial risks, and turning it into a system that just quietly works, day after day.
It's the ultimate translation layer between the raw, demanding expectations of the global economy and the physical realities of the pavement.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway for you, the listener. This industry rarely makes the evening news. You only ever hear about the supply chain when it completely breaks down, when the grocery shelves are empty or the deliveries are stalled for months. But it's the quiet, relentless force keeping our modern world running. The next time you're on the highway and you pass a long-haul truck, you'll know that the truck is just the very tip of a massive invisible iceberg.
A very expensive iceberg.
Underneath the surface is an intense world of financial risk, technological routing, and human coordination.
This raises an important question, though, a thought experiment to take with you. We established earlier that visibility is the currency of modern logistics, and we know these massive digital platforms are expanding rapidly, capturing more and more data about how the physical world moves.
Right.
If algorithms and AI ultimately end up making all the routing decisions, tracking the weather patterns, verifying the security protocols, and controlling the customer interface, who actually holds the ultimate power in the supply chain of the future? Is it the people who physically own the trucks, the ships, and the warehouses? Or is the true power held by the architects who own the data and control the visibility?
Now, that is a phenomenal question to chew on. Who really runs the world, the physical asset or the algorithm that commands it? We'll leave you with that to mull over the next time you pour yourself a cup of coffee and wonder exactly how those beans made it to your kitchen counter. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden world of freight forwarders. We'll catch you next time.